So, forgive the dodgy Jamiroquai title, but last week possibly was the first time virtual reality in the home was relatively accessible to all. I guess this is sort of, it's not really a run-through of all the things, but it's really to cover the news. You know, some would say I'm a PlayStation fanboy. I would say I'm a games connoisseur. So, the news came last week from the GDC conference in San Francisco that PlayStation VR would be coming out sometime around October, no specific date, and would come with the basic headgear, the processor, and everything that's needed, just the basic pack, for only $399. And when it was announced, the actual audience, which is of games experts and tech experts, actually gasped. It's rare that you can get people that aren't even associated with Sony directly gasping. Okay, make your own jokes there. But the simple fact of the matter is, people, and obviously people are then jumping on the fact that that basic pack doesn't include the PlayStation Move controllers, which are an optional extra, and the PlayStation camera, which is a mandatory extra, which are about $50 each new. I'm not sure how much they are on the pre-owned market, but either way. Keep in mind, over the past month or so, we've had the news come out that, first up, Oculus Rift announced that it would be coming out for $600. I think it's within the next couple of months. But in doing so, you have to have a rig that's powerful enough to run it. And those rigs on Oculus's own website, which is the best place because they're saying these will work with this no matter what, start off at around £1,000. So you're talking $1,600 to get the Oculus full experience or the minimum experience. Then HTC's Vive/Steam thing came out as being $800, which you'd expect would be more expensive because then you have the crazy sort of controls actually bundled with it, which Oculus is still working and developing on, which I don't think is going to be included in the basic bundle for $600. So $800 makes somewhat of a logical sense. Only problem being both those companies were saying it was going to be affordable technology and sort of doing... I mean, HTC didn't really do a ballpark figure, but the fact that Oculus said we were hoping it to be in around the $300-400 mark, and then it comes out at $600. Apparently they're still making a loss on it and everything. Vive, I'm not sure. They never really were targeting it towards being affordable, especially if you take into account with Steam, the whole Steam machine thing, where they were saying, oh, everything will be able to run on it. And then people saw the price of these things. Getting a computer that's, I don't know, about the size of a DVD case in, width and length, not height or whatever. But getting a small computer as a Steam machine, and it costing about as much as a giant rig that you could probably make yourself if you buy around and do the right parts. So, so obviously that's expensive because the Vive also needs a pretty decent high-powered rig, which will go into probably around 4 figures. So again, we're talking about, let's say about 1,800. Let's say you can get a rig for 1,000 which can run the Vive. So already you're talking a lot of money needs to be put down. Aside from the fact that you have to pay extra for the camera and the PlayStation Move controllers if you wanted them, taking the cost of that and then taking the cost of the console, being the PS4, the total cost of the entire set to get the actual experience that Sony is going to provide through their PlayStation VR is somewhere in the region of $800 to $850. The only reason I say that much is because I know there are certain deals out there where PS4s are going for about $300. Not, I think like the standard sort of retail price is $350 still, but that obviously could change with the little bit of news regarding the so-called souped-up PlayStation 4.5 as it's going as the rumoured work, the rumour title, like how the PS2 Slim was basically called the PS2.5 and the Slim PS3 was called the 3.5, and the original PlayStation, when it got shrunk down to the smaller case, they didn't really call it the Slim one, but it went from PlayStation to PS1, which was a pretty smart name for it, to be honest. But either way, $800 to $850. Obviously not including taxes or whatever, I'm just going from the base retail prices. Half the price of Oculus. Now, admittedly, Oculus, you don't have to be in a fixed position or anything. And with the Vive, you need a big space to play in. The issue with that, of course, though, the Vive, is not everybody lives in houses that has got the amount of space that will be required to play the thing. If the minimum you need, I believe, is like a 2 meter by 1.5 meter square space. For kids' bedrooms, that ain't gonna happen. To be honest as well, at least from where I am, kids' living rooms or families' living rooms probably wouldn't work either, because you couldn't. From what I can remember, it needs to be a flat surface. It needs to be a flat surface where the stuff is. So if there's like a rug or whatever, you need to pull away the rug. It needs to be a standard flat surface so the camera tripod things that monitor the area know what's going on, sort of thing. Whereas, most people are saying, oh, PlayStation VR can't be VR because you're basically in a sedentary position. You can't really walk about and do stuff. Which, and that admittedly would be like the next step of immersion, but they're taking into account these space issues. If I was here and I had the headset on, I could still look around. I wouldn't be able to move, but I could use a controller to do that. The demo that I saw at EGX of Kitchen, I wasn't actually pressing any buttons on the controller. The camera was just monitoring where the light was on the thing. So when I had to hold it up, as if to hold up my wrist, as though I were being cut through a knife, which was if you weren't careful, you know, when it would have gone through the ropes, the knife would have obviously kept going and gone like that. But the fact of the matter is, most people, the thing is as well, if you have it in a sedentary position and it's done right with whatever they're having to showcase, it's going to be, because the thing is, if you're already having like a twin stick sort of game, so let's say, you know, obviously using your left stick to move and your right stick to aim, you know, to get your view right. Imagine having that stick not having to be focused on. So you could just control with the triggers on shooting for Star Wars Battlefront, because that was the big one that they announced, that there's going to be a unique VR experience coming exclusively to PS4 and PSVR in the game. Which, you know, could be spaceships and whatever, because it would make sense. Because you can't really move in a cockpit. But if you just had your left hand to control your movement, but then your aiming was done by actually where you looked, you know, you press the R1 trigger button to basically look down the sights, and then, because people do this anyway. If you look at, certainly me or anybody when they're on car games, when I'm going into a corner, I naturally tilt my head as if I was actually in the car, and it was like, you know, it was like I'm actually in it. So, you know, I'm about to take a left turn, and my head will move to the right. It's probably not coming up right on there because of flipped cameras, I'm not sure. But either way, to me, that's my right. Even though on my image I'm pointing left. Because I never look at these, I guess, and pay attention to them when they go up on YouTube. But, you know, you get that thing in driving games where, you know, that sort of thing happens. If you could somehow incorporate that actually into a video game to make it feel more authentic. Shame we won't be having it with Drive Club. RIP Evolution Studios, by the way. Did great World Rally games, and Drive Club just was a victim of its own hype. Sony didn't help it, to be quite honest. Either way, with this whole VR thing, and you know, I'm still waiting to see when I'm going to get a chance to look at this sort of stuff again, because I will admit, you know, I've got access to EGX already for the end of September, but I believe there is another convention coming up close to me as well, like towards August, end of August-ish, which I believe is sort of part convention, part sort of gaming event thing. And if they're trying to have this thing on showcase for as many people as possible to experience, then it's going to be a hot ticket. So the thing is, of course, pre-orders have opened. They've been doing pretty well. People have been received. Apparently, Shuhei Yoshida was saying the reason why they didn't have a camera in the basic bundle is because early adopters of the console, you know, within the first 12 months of launch, got a camera inside there anyway, because that's what it came with as standard at launch. So there's no point in people getting a second camera and not having any, not having any use for it. sort of similar, if you look at it, to Microsoft's Kinect. When they launched the new Kinect, people had to get the bundle with the Kinect built in, even though they'd already had a Kinect, either from a previous built-in bundle or a standalone thing, because they bought it standalone because they didn't need to update their console or anything. So in that sense, it makes even more sense. And the more amazing thing is, due to the, I guess, partnerships that they have with their suppliers and everything, unlike Oculus, apparently the VR, the PlayStation VR, is actually making Sony a profit, which might be the first time that Sony's launched something where they're actually making a profit. Because I don't think they I don't think they got it for the one. I don't think they did it for the PS1. I don't think they did it for the PS2, because that was when they really kicked into the whole DVD thing. They certainly didn't do it for the PS3 at launch because of the Blu-ray thing, but it helped the fact that Blu-ray, is the format that we all use for high-definition discs, rather than HD DVD and all that. So, so much so that Xbox One discs are Blu-rays, technically. I'm pretty sure. But either way, the fact, as I said before, this is the whole package for Sony's offering of virtual reality, which for some people will actually be better because I think they said that the frame rate can go up to 120 frames per second. Between 90 and 120, whereas the maximum for all the others is 90. The thing is, of course, if there's more frames per second, the clearer and steadier the image is, so the less likelihood there is of people actually feeling ill and whatever with it on. So, yeah, I was lucky enough to get my hands on with it. I'm trying to think. Pretty much 6 months ago to this week, actually. And I enjoyed it then. I didn't really want Kitchen, but actually having the experience, it made me sort of immersed in it, which I guess is what the reality, PlayStation VR is wanting. And although it didn't creep out and scare people like other things did, it's pleasing to see that there was demand for it. There clearly is a demand for VR. The queues for the Oculus Rift games at the convention were quite big. The HTC thing, it was so exclusive, the list of people that supposedly won via competition, that because people were going there and finding out that they couldn't, they had a booth that if people just walked in not knowing about this, they couldn't even get a chance to. New rules have now been brought into the convention, basically saying accommodation needs to be made for for the things that are on show. The PlayStation could get away with it because it was sort of a thing tucked away within their stand that wasn't available to all. Whereas the stand for HTC was a giant great thing, nearly as big as Sony's stand itself, basically saying, experience it here. There was nothing really obvious about experience PlayStation VR here. That's going to obviously be completely different this time around, given that there will be within weeks of the actual launch, the worldwide launch of it. But the amount of people wanting to see the Vive and wanting to see VR and wanting to see, I think that was the thing that really affected the Vive one. Because the Vive one was like a prize draw, and it was like, have you got in or not? The way Sony did it is you had to book a time slot. You had to say, I'm going in then and there, and you had to book it before it filled and whatever. So it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see the reactions from, social media and gaming enthusiasts like myself. Varying different ones. Sort of people complaining and nitpicking, and then other people who are more like my attitude is at the minute, saying, this looks promising. Let's hope nobody screws anything up come towards the end of the year. All I think we can say, though, is considering all the announcements that Rockstar supposedly are doing something at E3, EA are going to be announcing something at E3, probably Mass Effect related, possibly Star Wars related. Square Enix are doing, I don't know, actually Square Enix are probably doing something because of Final Fantasy and all their, and Kingdom Hearts and everything. Bethesda are coming back with another press conference. Microsoft is going to be doing something big. Nintendo apparently may be ceasing production of the Wii U as of this year because it's going to focus solely on the NX. Sony has got PlayStation VR to deal with. Ubisoft has got to make us impressed with, I guess, the tease for Assassin's Creed. And then all the games that looked really nice either 2 years ago or last year, which will probably look absolutely crap now, because that's how Ubisoft works E3. And, on top of that, the PlayStation VR stuff from Sony, and whatever else Sony has got to unveil, all of a sudden, this June's E3 could be one of the biggest E3s ever. Admittedly, that's what we all said last year, and it was huge. But there's even more this time to be added to it, so start counting the days, people. We are, I'd say, somewhere in the region of only 3 months to go. So many days to WrestleMania, so many days to Halloween Horror Nights. No, E3's the one you should be talking about, because that'll be the one that will shock the world. And he is none other than the Shockmaster. No. God damn it. Gotta do something. I can't think what. How am I gonna finish this video properly? I know. I think